imagine, most of it was stripped away. I had no prom or graduation ceremonies, which are both huge parts of senior year. I didn't get to go off on my internship for school, or couldn't do my senior class prank or any of my senior trips. And I don't want what happened to me to happen to anyone else. So tonight, we are going to hear the concerns, but also the hopes and dreams of those in the school. First, we will have at-large City Councilor Julia Mejia tell us her concerns and ideas. After that, we will have a student panel facilitated by Brighton High School's own rising senior, Jakina. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nayeli. Thank you so much, Councilor Mejia, for coming here. And this kind of got put together at the last minute, right? We saw each other on Saturday, and here we are. So please take it away with your concerns and ideas to kick this all off. I think you're muted.
You know, I should know how to work this thing by now, right? No, I was just basically just thanking you for giving me an opportunity to be here. If anyone knows anything about the way that I roll, it's always really about seizing moments to connect with those who are living the realities and doing the work. So thank you for the invitation. Really happy to be here. As a parent, first and foremost, this conversation for me is personal and professional. There's been a lot of miscommunication or lack thereof for families in regards to going back to school. And everyone talks about the level of engagement, but we rarely hear from young people who are the ones who will have to be the ones enduring this. So really looking forward to being here and to listening. One of the issues that we've identified is being able to support families who are working and are concerned about remote learning. Not everyone has the privilege to put together a learning pod and hire private tutors. In our office, we're working in collaboration with an organization called CPLAN, which is the Collaborative Parent Leadership Action Network, and we're going to be creating what we're calling a learning pod for families who are interested in opting out of going to school with the hybrid model. So we'll have families, we're already at capacity. We have 20 families that we're going to be serving. We're going to be opening up Lena Park during the day. Kids will be engaging in their online remote learning in different learning pods per grades. And we will also be supplementing their learning through culturally responsive programming that reflects our community, that reflects our stories, that reflects our realities. And so I hope that today's conversation, that as parents and as educators, that we can think about how do we take this model and create an opportunity for families in, Orchard Garden families to create a learning pod where you can have like a Susie as your teacher. You can collaborate with community partners to help support the supplemental learning. So I'm really looking forward to having this discussion and figuring out how we as the people who are living these realities and doing the work can really lead these conversations in ways that will address the issues that we're all struggling with. So thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to engaging the dialogue.
Thank you so much. I know I said I didn't want to say too much in here, but I wanted to tell you, Councilor Mejia and everybody else, I got a phone call today from Jerry Robinson, who's one of the school committee members. And we were talking for a little while about a different situation, but then, I started telling her about the pod plan and, everyone's got concerns and, even she did. And, of course, there is no perfect answer, but I was thinking back to like what we were talking about on Saturday with Tanisha, like with the freedom schools and, thinking outside of the box. So I'm really hoping after we hear the concerns, we can begin to think outside of the box on these issues because we've got so many resources here.
And I just wanted to let you know that Jerry and I have been in communication in regards to the ways that she might be able to support this concept. And there is a lot of interest. And I do think if the Orchard Garden community is interested in pursuing this, there is an appetite and there is the will of the people, if you will, ready, willing, and able to help move this work along. So I'm looking forward to exploring that possibility, hearing what it is that you all want, and figuring out how we can make these things happen.
Yeah, and I should say there are parents and educators from all across the district here today. So, you know, it is a matter of thinking outside the box, like our, you know, as it is right now, everyone goes back to their school building for 2 days a week. But, you know, maybe that, you know, she was even talking, and we were just like talking completely off the record, but, you know, maybe it does happen. It goes neighborhood by neighborhood because that solves the transportation issue, because I guess it's a big transportation issue. It's, you know, of course, it's a building issue. Like, I think the email I sent you or somebody the other day, you know, there's 1,000 kids, almost 1,000 kids at Orchard Gardens, for example. So even if half of them are there, that's going to be maybe 450, you know, because some will opt out, maybe it'll only be 400, but that with the amount of square feet that's there, it will be difficult. So we do want to think outside the box. And I know that when I talked to the students on this panel yesterday, a big concern was about safety, but then also keeping those traditions alive and keeping some kind of culture alive in the school. Oh, wait, unmute.
I really do love the way you are thinking. I believe that these moments, COVID has presented an opportunity for us to think outside the box, right? And if a cohort of families, let's just say 20 or so, decide that they want to open up a learning pod right in their neighborhood, you're right, it's going to address the issues of transportation. It's going to create opportunities to even support small local businesses and nonprofits to support the learning of the students. And that is how we build community. And this opportunity is really about how do we seize this moment in time to create the type of school environment and the type of experiences that we've been yearning for all along. You know, we have a lot of parents who know we're our kids' first teachers. We know what we want, we know what we don't want. And now we have an opportunity to really take these lessons and apply them directly. Our learning pod that we've created is community centered. You know, we have parents who have GEDs to PhDs and everything in between. And one of the parents is a registered nurse. So she's gonna be doing some volunteer work at the learning pod, right? We have another parent who's a father. He's gonna be overseeing the boys pod. So for us, this is really about how do we seize this moment and create the type of safe and sanitized environment where our kids can learn and grow within their community. And I think that is what I'm hoping for from this conversation, so that we can dream a little, we can think about what this is going to look like, and that we can collectively create it for ourselves, you know? So that's what I'm really hoping for. And, you know, I'm sorry because I keep going. I know that I'm looking out kind of crazy because I'm also in the school committee hearing. So I just want to make sure that when they call me, I'm ready to speak.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to go back to you. Okay.
Definitely. Okay. And I should say, wow, we've got 52 people in here, which is amazing because there is a really important school committee meeting tonight. But I guess I was going to say one other thing. Well, I just got off of a webinar with Dr. Goldie Muhammad and Dr. Celia Ruiz, which a lot of the parents in here know because they took a class with Dr. Celia Ruiz. And, you know, a big part of what they think the shift, and actually when I was talking to Mrs. Robinson, she agreed, a shift in the thinking is to really get back to that culturally, not just culturally responsive teaching in a way that we're building them up to succeed in a certain type of world that has been decided is the right way to live, but a way that is, you know, uplifting everybody's identity and is cultivate, well, this book, this has been my book that I recommend, Cultivating the Genius of All the Students that we have. And I think back to the Freedom Schools in Boston again. And when those schools started in the 60s, they had 14 demands, which I'll send out those demands after this. But it's really interesting what they were looking for, because at that time, Boston Public Schools had 0 Black principals and had only 40 Black teachers. And most of the books did not represent the cultures of the students and things like that. They had a quote unquote intelligence test that, was measured intelligence in quotes. And so I just think, like, when I look at those demands, and my students and I were looking at them yesterday, I think, it makes you think, wow, what has changed? And when I was talking to Ms. Robinson today, and I don't think she'll mind me telling you that she's 70 years old, she's lived her whole life in Boston, and she's like, it's kind of heartbreaking when things aren't changing. So like you said, this might be our moment. So, Councilor Mejia, did you want to say anything else before we go on to the panel?
No, well, one thing that I would like to encourage our panelists and the people who are here today is that these are not the moments to think with barriers. This is an opportunity for us to redesign and reimagine what type of experience we want our kids to have despite COVID. So I think that the sky is the limit. I've been talking to other organizations that are thinking about doing theme-based type of learning pods. Like, one is focusing on physical fitness and health, because a lot of kids have gained weight during the remote learning. There's some schools that want to do learning pods that focus on gardening. So I just want you all to think about, if you all were to create your learning pod, do you want to do a Cape Verdean an immersion program where you have kids learning Cape Verdean Creole during your as part of your programming? Like, really think about, if the fairy godmother came down and said, you can create any type of school environment that you want, what would it look like? And what do you envision for your children and yourselves? So I really want you all to think big, okay?
All right, thank you. And I'm going to turn it over now to Nayeli, who's going to introduce the Jaquinia doing the panel. And so thank you, Nayeli, and Jaquinia, take it away. So Nayeli is here. I just don't see her here off of mute. But I should say, what's important about this panel is that when I was talking, some of these kids I've never met in real life, but they volunteered. I should thank Mr. Gavin Smith. He helped me get some of the students from here. And so a lot of times we want to just fix things before we've heard about what has happened. You know, when we talk about truth and reconciliation, the truth comes first. And what I realized when I was meeting with the students yesterday, just to do a quick walkthrough on this, a lot of them, it seemed like, hadn't talked about this outside of their family. And, you know, and definitely hadn't been communicated with either from the school system or from their schools, not at the level that they wanted to be, and still had a lot of questions, and there's been a lot of pain. So like Nayeli pointed out in the introduction, she didn't get to have her graduation, and ceremonies and traditions like that are really important to all of us, to kids and to adults. And those moments are not to be missed. And so it really touched me when she was saying that, and Jaquinia as well, and the others all had, you know, concerns about what they were missing and what they might miss this coming year, as well as just their safety. So Nayeli, are you there? I see Jada, I see Azarea.
Hi. Yes, I'm here.
Hi,
But
go ahead and introduce yourself. And I was going on and introduced Jaquinia. Thank you.
but I already introduced myself.
Oh,
Earlier.
I thought you were just going to introduce the, oh, I'm sorry, maybe I'm off the
No, it's
script.
Jaquinia. Jaquina's the one
Yeah.
that's introducing the panel.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Jaquinia.
Hello. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Jaquina from Brighton High School, and I'm a rising senior. Okay, so one of my questions is, like, what are the concerns for the upcoming year? and what materials / technology will we need to feel safe? Like, yeah.
And maybe as you all answer for the first question, you can say your name, what grade you're in, and what school you're from. So why don't we go like we did yesterday, youngest to oldest?
Hello, my name is Azarea, and I go to Orchard Gardens. And my response to the first question is me, my friends, and my family getting sick.
Okay.
Okay, Jada's the next oldest.
My name is Jada. I'm going to 7th grade, and I go to Helen Y. Davis Leadership Academy. And my answer to the first question, 1 is the number of cases going up and down. 2 is if it's going to help with the number of people dying or not. 3 is schools are not equipped to have the normal amount of students they would have normally to return to school. 4 is public transportation, because the 7th and 8th graders did to take the public transportation, the bus or the train. They're not allowed to take school buses.
What?
Is we are expected to stay in our school classrooms in our seats are not able to walk to the bathroom or have gym time. There are kids that need time to run, and if they don't have breaks, they will sometimes step away from my learning. 6 is some teachers, like my mother, are in classrooms where they can't social distance, and that puts my family, especially social. 7 is clean schools. Because not always, I don't think that always the janitors clean every day. So if that's happening, then there could be a chance of, because the way what there could be a chance of people getting corona, because one of the ways that it's spread is most of the ways that it's spread is germs and people not being clean enough. And 8, my last concern is people that can't really help it. There's some people who don't really listen or don't really listen to certain things, so they're not as aware as others, and they'll just not listen. And they, like people on the street who don't wear masks or anything. There's kids in school who don't listen or don't do what they're supposed to or expected to. So I feel like that's gonna be another problem.
Okay, I think next oldest is Elijah.
Hi, my name is Elijah Green, and I'm going into 10th grade, and I go to Cathedral High School. And the main concern that I have is like having materials for our safety, like hand sanitizer, wipes, and stuff like that, just because like everybody might not wash their hands and do the necessary things that we need to do to keep everyone safe. So they need to at least have like materials like that, so people will start to use them more and keep everybody in the building safe.
Next, I think is Eliana.
Hi, I'm Eliana Rivas. I go to Fenway High School and I'm going to be a 10th grade right now. My main concern is the health of my family and mine, because I don't want to risk my safety or my parents or my grandparents. And also public transportation, because most students that go to my school take public transportation. So that would put all of us at risk. And the other people that go to school, like staff and teachers.
Thank you. And then let's see, Fariani.
Hi, my name is Fariani. I am grade in the 11th grade. I am going to Boston International School. My concern for next year is that don't have a effect against the school and I have an education and the material I want to clean in the school and they have a sanitizer and different about to clean in the school.
Thank you. And then 12th grader, Osese? Osesa.
Yeah, Osasa. My name is Osa Senega. I'm a rising senior at Boston Latin School. And I'd say my concerns over like safety for my school is that we're a pretty big school. And so definitely it's like what people have been highlighting. I think Jada talked about it as well, but the availability of cleaning supplies for teachers, and then just the availability of general like masks as well, maybe for students who don't have masks or show up to school without a mask, as well as also, there's also concerns about like how disciplining or how like students may be potentially disciplined for not having a mask and those who will not comply. And then generally, how will we be able to like prevent students who are sick or potentially sick from entering the building? Like, will we have the technology available to have someone checking temperatures, of course, with the right like protective equipment, but checking students' temperatures before they enter the building as well?
Great. And I just had Gavin asked if we could put the questions in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and put the questions that we're asking in the chat so you all can follow along. All right. Thanks, Jakinia. If you want to go on with the next.
Yep. My next question is, how are your parents or families feeling about the upcoming year? And what are they thinking about?
All right, same order if you all remember. Azarea, you're the youngest still. Azarea, can you, oh, there you are.
Question 2, they're unsure. Question 3.
We'll just stick with question 2, but I wanted, hi Eliana, I wanted to, you to tell the group also what grade you were in, because I don't think you said it last time.
Oh, I'm in 4th grade, but I'm going into 5th.
Thank you so much, Azarea. All right, so next, Jada.
What my mom thinks of next coming school year is returning. I'm only doing online school for this year.
Okay, next was Elijah.
Some concerns that my parents have is like keeping me like so I don't catch anything, but also like worrying about the people at the school, like what are they doing to make sure no one else catches something. And also something that other people might relate to is like trying not to get the virus. So if you have like grandparents or anything that live at home with you, like older people.
Thank you. Next was
Me.
yes.
My parents' concern is what safety measurements are going to be taken if we have in-person classes, and how would in-person classes look? Like all of the safety measurements, basically.
And then Fariani, I think.
My partner says they have to be take care They say that next year everything will be fine and that we at least will be able to go.
Thank you. Obsessa?
Please don't be ugly. Please don't be ugly.
So for my parents are really, it's like what people are saying, they're unsure about the safety measurements that will be taken, and then how the school plans to make sure that other students are also like complying, so that for the general safety, for the better safety of everyone. And then also like what their involvement, is their involvement in our education going to be like any more or any less than like what we already experienced during this remote learning period, due to it being like fully standardized for this upcoming year. What during in this hybrid model when we're at home. So like, are there any support groups, or how will we be more involved, and how will they be more involved in our education?
Okay, and I've seen a lot of comments and a lot of people are asking questions, some privately to me and some right out there. So we will have a time where you can ask the students questions, and also when we get into our groups, you'll be able to talk to each other. All right, next question.
Next question is, what are your goals for the upcoming year?
Azarea?
Mine is to succeed in math.
My goals for the upcoming year is trying to get all A's, especially because I'm doing online, so it'll be a little bit harder.
Goals I have for the upcoming school year is continuing to be an honor roll student, even with the COVID-19 situation going on.
My goals are to get all A's like I did last year, and also to be able to have extracurriculars in any way, because I did debate team last year and I wasn't able to finish it. So I would love to keep doing it this year.
My goal for next year is to finish my school and go to the college and learn more English and very good and work to have for my mom and my dad.
I think for me, just to continue like doing well academically, and then another goal for me is to make sure that like my notes or my grades this year like accurately represent what they should be, and like it's not because of remote learning or this hybrid model that it was like in some way wrongfully showing or representing what my grades are.
Thank you so much. So really well thought students. I wish I could say all these students were my students, but only a couple of them. Actually, no, wait a minute. Only one of them actually was my student. So I guess we can continue with the next question. Oh, wait, I think we skipped over.
Yeah, we skipped number 4.
Okay.
Or 3.
3, yeah, I think maybe I wrote them in the wrong order, but yeah, go ahead, Jakina.
Oh yeah, the third question, which we skipped, was how will this affect traditions and how could we adapt to them? Like, yeah.
Go ahead, Azarea, and also if you want to describe what would be the perfect school situation for you this coming year, given the pandemic. and all of those conditions?
I can't play with my friends. I also have to, because we have to stay 6 feet apart. And the next one is
I feel like
we would do group. My answer is group A, and I would do like it would be like one group goes on Monday and Tuesday, and one group goes on Thursday and Friday because I really want to go back to school and I miss all my friends and my teachers.
I think that some problems with the celebrations and graduations and things is that some people don't understand how important it is to some students, so they don't really.
One group goes on Monday and Tuesday, and one.
I think, yeah, like I said, I think one of the problems will be people not understanding how important it is to students and their graduation. I think that since if we are going, since we're going back to school, I think that if we were to fix it, then we would have to have a really big field especially because social distancing. I also think that one of the problems is that like the social distancing is a problem because all the activities that we do within touching each other and touching objects that are touching multiple people. So I think that's another problem.
The perfect school situation for this coming up year would be not everyone in the building at once and like a day in the middle so that the schools can get cleaned extra, and also things like hand sanitizer and wipes, and then also someone making sure all of the people in the building follow the rules.
I was reading the first draft that the superintendent sent it, and I believe that's a good idea because not everybody will be at the same time, and I believe there could be like a day in the middle, like Elijah said, to properly clean the school. But I believe it could. That's a great idea.
I don't know. I think it's not a good idea to go back to the school because for now it's the coronavirus and I'm not prepared for go back to the school. I have a nervous. I have a nervous for when I go back to the school. I think when I come back, I will be affected with the other student because not every time you, I don't know, because you need to take care.
And then I would say, I think maybe,
Doggy dog, 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 dog.
okay, I think the use of how we can use other buildings and fields. I know someone mentioned that as well, especially for bigger schools, how we can use sports arenas or stadiums like White Stadium, just for the traditions such as like graduation and other big things too. Graduation isn't the only thing that we have. Other different extracurricular fairs or just like how we can use buildings in our communities, even like the public libraries as well. They're in their green spaces as well. Using any green space we have just so we can keep as many traditions that are necessary to our school culture, so we can keep as many as possible.
So right now, if anybody has questions for any of the speakers or for all of them, if you would like to raise your hand, maybe Jakinia, you can call on people who either raise their hand or wave or something like that.
Okay.
Thank you. I could ask a question because I thought of this as you all were talking, and I wanted to start with Nayeli, even though she's not on the panel, but I want to hear from all of you all. How has the school year closing and not, like not having your graduations and all of that, how has that affected you? How did that make you feel? Was it like not a big deal? Was it sort of a big deal? And why? And so whoever wants to take that in whatever order. I'd like to like start with Nayeli and Jakinia also. You can also pipe in.
Yeah, I wanted to answer that question. So you asked about like how did that make us feel? I feel like
what happened? Like how did it change for you? I mean, I know we all know your classes got canceled, you had to be at home, but other things that we adults might not be aware of, how did that change your year and affect you?
Okay, for me, I didn't really mind anything, but I really feel bad for the seniors because they've been in school for 12 years. And the least that some schools could have done is rent out a big like field, like Fenway Field, any other field, JFK Field, for the students to graduate, because they deserve that as much. Even though we're going through a pandemic, they deserve to walk across the stage. The principal could at least try to do something for them, because for some students, it's a big part to graduate. And so for me, I didn't really mind it, but for the seniors, I felt really bad.
Yeah. So like for me as an actual senior that graduated, I was actually really bummed out because my graduation was through YouTube Live. So I just kind of watched my graduation and it really didn't feel like I graduated because it wasn't fair that I didn't get like my actual graduation. And as for like my prom and stuff, my mom and I have been planning my prom. Like this is gonna sound a little weird, but my mom and I have been planning my prom and my prom colors ever since I was in like 6th grade. And we've always just like loved the idea of prom, and the fact that I didn't get one was like a huge deal to me and my mother. So, and also a waste of money because I got a dress and everything. So yeah, just not having those events is like really hard on all the students and stuff like that, because even though adults see them and they think like, oh, it's just an event, they'll be fine. To us, like at our level, it's a huge deal because those are like rites of passage for all high schoolers and stuff. You look up to these things when you get to 12th grade. You went to school for like 12 or 13 years, depending on whatever situation you're in, just for you to not cross the stage and make everyone proud like you want to.
All right. I just want to say that I agree with Nayeli, because like even when you're like I'm a rising senior and obviously I haven't graduated, but even when you're not a senior who's walking across that podium or stage or whatever, it still provides closure for a lot of students this school year, knowing that, okay, there's a graduation ceremony coming up, or, oh, there's a prom. And I think without those events, it definitely makes the school year feel like there's no climactic experience or like a graduation or some closing ceremony where everyone comes together as a school community, as well as, there's some questions in the comments about it too, of like, oh, what are the pros and cons of remote learning? How, if we could do it completely for a year. And I think that's kind of why like we can't necessarily do it completely a year. And that's why, that's my opinion, just because there's so many things of like school community activities, events, culture, a graduation, prom, different like traditions that we have that we can't just, it's really not the same, completely virtual, YouTube Live or doing any streaming. And so if we can use like these public green spaces, fields, library green spaces, anything to just, of course, maintaining proper social distancing, I think that would be definitely important part for like providing closure to all students, not just seniors as well. Because like Nayeli said, they're an important part of like, the rite of passage is being a high school student, or maybe just being a student at a Boston Public school in general.
Okay, it looks like we have some questions in the chat. Let's see, Brady said Christian had his hand raised.
Yes. Question for the panel and other students on the call. First of all, thank you for letting me be here. My name is Christian White. So my son's 13. He's going into 7th. He's on the autism spectrum, and he's very high functioning, and part of the IEP is for it. Everything it revolves around socialization and how he interacts with other students. So first question is, so me and his mom decided that if there was 100% online learning, that we would right now at least be in favor of that until some other things change. But Christian himself wants to go back to school, and he's brought up some of the same reasoning, which is he just wants to be around his friends. And I want to make sure I'm respecting him to the best of my ability. So my question is, can you explain to me a little bit more of how important socialization is for you personally, so I can try to understand where my son might be coming from a little better? And 2, what are some activities that I could possibly do with him to help him socialize if we do decide to not let him attend school physically?
Great, thank you. So anyone or everyone can take that question.
I'll answer.
Students. Sure. Any students on, or anyone who's got ideas, even if you're not on the panel.
Well, I know you guys can't see me right now, but my name is Imani, and I'm with Teen Empowerment. And I would just like to say that socializing.
So I have a couple, a little bit probably specific, and maybe 2 micro.
Go ahead, Imani. And also I want to say thank you, Teen Empowerment, who is here today with some youth. Thank you.
So yeah, as I was saying, I feel as if though socialization is a very strong component when in school. I feel like we socialize our whole life. We're socializing right now. I feel like in my heart, I feel like, I don't want to say it's too soon, but I feel like throughout this whole summer, I hope it gave school districts an idea of the best way possible of how to come back to school. I feel like in my heart, I don't necessarily know what would be best for us only because of the situation that we're in. But to his point, I feel like the best way to interact with your son and make sure that he's maintaining whatever it is that he needs to maintain and he's doing the best possible. I feel like don't give up because schools are not in, but just keep being active, go outside, take walks, and, like find different hobbies and try out new things. I feel like this is what this is all about. I feel like, because I personally look at Corona as being like the apocalypse and the world is changing for the better, even though there's a lot of things going on, a lot of people are dying. I feel like you just really gotta find something and you have to dib and dab. I know it's hard and it's different for you, but you got to understand that you never know what might happen. The world might come to, and we don't know what's going to happen. Just like this happened, we don't know what's going to happen. So if you can you have to learn them a little better. And this is what this is all about, like learning yourself better and learning different situations better. So honestly, you can find any different like activities and just maintain that, or stuff that he may like, may not like, and get to know him on a better, different spectrum.
Well, thank you. Any other students on here want to add to what Imani's saying?
Yeah, I totally agree with her because all of us, literally, school is all of our lives. And I don't know, especially for someone with the autism spectrum, because my brother, he had autism spectrum, and everything is based on a routine. And I feel like it was really hard, not only for us, but especially for people with disabilities. And because everything for them are routines. So I feel like you should create a new routine, try to find new hobbies, and try to help him communicate with his friends, because basically that's all that he wants. It's not because of the school, it's just to communicate and be with his friends.
Oh, this is an important topic. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Melanie. I'm also from Teen Empowerment. I'm a junior at O'Brien. So I just want to say, like, me personally, like, I feel like socializing is like so important. Like, me personally, like I feel like I don't like during like COVID and stuff, and like when we're doing online schooling, it was just driving me insane. The fact that I couldn't see none of my friends and stuff. Like, although I did talk to some of them, you know, like on the phone and stuff, it just never felt like enough, because I'm like I want to go outside, like I want to go out to eat or something. Like, I just want to be in school. But like, of course, like now with the whole situation of like how they're determining whether to go back to school or not, for me personally, I feel like I'd rather not go back to school this entire year. And although I don't like virtual, like they're doing school like virtual, I'd rather do school virtual this whole year. And then like it's probably because like after this year I'm gonna be a senior, and I don't want to lose like my prom and graduation and stuff. So I'd rather, you know, we stay on the safe side, don't go back to school this year, and then next year, hopefully, you know, we could just go back to school normally, because maybe by then things will be better. But like, that's probably me just saying that because like I'm a little bit selfish of like, you know, because I feel like I always wait for like senior year, you know, you just always wait for prom and stuff and graduation and like wanting all your family there. And I know like kids this year, they didn't get to have that. And like, I literally like told my family, so I was like, man, if I was a senior this year, I just hate high school completely. Like, I would not. But yeah, so, and like, but the thing with like doing that what worries me is like for people like someone like my sister, she's 10. She's like a sixth grader, she's a fifth grader. So like what worries me is like younger kids, they won't be able to learn well enough. Like my sister during the whole virtual learning, she wasn't learning anything. And like for me personally, I can't really help her because like at the end of the day, I'm not a teacher and I don't know how to teach her to do anything. And my mom has to go to work. So it's like, oh, she's not getting she's not learning enough and stuff. So that's what worries me. Sorry. That's what worries me, because I'm like, if we do virtual and stuff, like younger kids are not going to be learning to their fullest capacity. And it's already hard in general to teach kids when they're younger, like to teach them at school, and then doing it online is even worse, especially for like, you know, kids with disabilities or anything. It just makes the whole situation harder, and like they just can't concentrate or anything. Like always there's everything going on in the background. You get tired of just staring at the screen and stuff. So it just makes everything so hard. So like it's important to be like, I don't know, like they just need to figure out a way, just mainly to help, I feel like, younger kids, because I feel like they're like the biggest like problem right now. Like us high schoolers, like I feel like maybe we can, even though remote learning and stuff is hard for us, it's even harder for younger kids. And I feel like it's more important to be able to help them, because they know less. We're able to like manage and like adapt to things, but for them it's even harder. So like, yeah, that's like the one thing I'm worried about, and I just don't know what it's gonna look like for this year. And yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in on this idea of social skills? Go ahead.
Yeah, Melanie, I totally agree with your concerns that like, is it even worth going back to school at all, right? We go to the same school, by the way. I'm a rising senior. Right? I just don't feel like the hybrid model we propose is actually realistic for a school like mine, right? We have super tiny classrooms, some of them, right? Spanish class last year for me was a sardine can with terrible ventilation, right? And we had 31 kids in that class, and it was no bigger than my living room. So it's just like, can we think of better ways to like organize that? And then of course we have to worry about transportation and stuff. One thought I had was like, we proposed a 2-group model, but what if we tried 3 and just like every other day we deep clean? Or what if we did like alternating weeks, like you have 4 different groups, and one group comes in Monday, Tuesday, one week, another group like, and then Thursday, Friday for the second group. Next week you have 3 and 4. and then you alternate like that. Like we can really get creative. What about extracurriculars like band and stuff, or even like band class? Can we send instruments home, have them professionally cleaned and sent home? Can we do that? Can we run choir from home? Can we have online concerts, like all that fun stuff too?
Thank you.
Hi, Susie.
Go ahead.
I know this is youth, and I don't know if you could see me, but I wanted to jump in while I could before I have to go back over to the school committee situation. So I just wanted to say it is so, I think that the school committee members all need to be in this meeting right now, listening to the young people, because they work for them, you know? And I think that what is being discussed here and how thoughtful the young people are being about what they're sharing is incredibly kind of inspiring to me. And I think that more folks should be tuning in to this conversation right now. And I think if you could share this recording with the school committee members, I think that would be a very important task, so that they can hear directly from those that they serve. So I think that is definitely a next step and a follow-up that I'd like to see happen as a result of this. And then I think to Christian's point earlier in regards to his son, and then all of the amazing feedback that he received from the students here, you know, I think I mentioned earlier how difficult this has been for my daughter in terms of this transition and the isolation and social isolation. And what we're not thinking about is the social, emotional, and mental well-being of kids. Every conversation right now is like, just get the kids back into the classroom. But we're not thinking about poverty. We're not thinking about families who have to work. What are they going to do those other 3 days, right? We're not thinking about the social isolation and the mental impact that this has had on educators, on students, and on parents, right? So BPS, as they start thinking about their reopening plan, they also need to do it in a way that centers this conversation around mental wellness, because we can't continue to do business as usual. This reopening plan has to have some space for us to unpack the trauma that we've experienced as a result of this pandemic, right? The fact that we're living in this new normal where we have to wear masks everywhere we go. If we don't set some time aside to have those conversations, right, as part of the reopening plan, then what we're doing is just business as usual, which is what these times do not require, right? And so I think that as we continue this dialogue and centering it on the social isolation that so many young people have experienced, and you know, rates of suicide, you know, there's been an uptick in violence, like all of this is a result of what's happening, you know, lack of sleep because of the fireworks. Yeah, every single thing that has happened as a result of COVID, we're all feeling it. And the school conversation has to we have to wrap our arms around the whole child, right? And I think that thinking about these smaller learning pods, if you will, from a space of identifying the whole child, and then looking at physical fitness. No one, I mean, I know some of the remarks earlier about how do we utilize outdoor space. The reopening plan, no one's talking about physical activity. No one's talking about how we're going to get kids to move. No one's talking about the food insecurity that still exists in our neighborhood. So I think that the reopening plan is like in school sports, exactly, Charlotte. You know, I feel like the conversation around the transition and fear of eviction, all of this, you know, the cost of being poor is pricey, right? And if we're not looking at this conversation from all these different spaces, then we are just flapping our lips for the sake of listening to ourselves speak. And I think that one of the reasons why I support an elected school board, because I look at Somerville, I look at Cambridge, I look at all of the cities across this Commonwealth, and I look at how decisive they have been in terms of what their opening plans look like. And I look at the level of engagement and who is at the center of those conversations. And it really goes to show the difference that Boston, I believe, is the only town and city
in
Commonwealth that has an appointed school board. And we're still trying to debate and decide how our plan is going to look. Even as I sit here in this committee hearing, they're still saying that things are still going to change, that they still haven't made an appointment, a decision. And so that speaks volumes to the structural issues that we need to address here in the city of Boston. And I think that all of this, you know, everything that we're talking about right now is a bigger symptom of a larger problem. And the root of that problem is that when it comes to the people who are living the realities or doing the work, we're usually the last to be at the table. But we're always on the menu, and every single day we're being eaten up alive because we're asked for our opinion. And when our opinion is given, right, no one really listens to us. And I say us because I still feel, even though I'm a city councilor, I still feel so connected. I am y'all, like I am us. Like nobody's listening to me either. Like I got that 63-page report I think Susie, you sent it to me.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm a city councilor and I'm an active parent, and I didn't even know about the 63-page report. And then the way they rolled out the plan was 63 pages. Like, who has time to do that? We're dodging bullets out here every single day. Who has time to, you know, it's like the Da Vinci Code. We have to translate.
It sounds like a contract to me.
You know, it's crazy. And so, you know, that 63-page plan was not intended for us to understand. That was not written with families and educators and stakeholders in mind. That plan was created for someone else to read, not us, not the everyday person. And that's why I put it out there yesterday. And I think that this right now, this conversation needs to be shared. Every single school committee member needs to hear this directly from those who are living these realities. And we need to take our leadership and our direction from the educators and the parents and the students that are going to have to put their lives at risk, right? And then I'll shut up because this is about the youth. But I'm just so passionate. And while all these people are flapping their lips, I'm going to flap my lip here real quick before I have to go back in, is that this is why we're pushing creating our own learning pods. And it's about creating this framework that anyone can use. You could just take the template and do an Orchard Gardens pod, right? You could take the template and do an East Boston pod. You know, the NAACP can take it and do a Freedom School, you know, Freedom Mission pod. You know, like everyone could just take this concept and make it their own. But if we can create this as a community collective and then present it to, you know, Dr. Cilius and her team to support it, I think you guys can make it happen. It has to be led by the people. That we can't wait for them to make any more decisions. It is clear to me that it is time for us to be the ones leading the charge and deciding for ourselves what our fate is going to be in the fall. This is what these times require. I just want to just throw all of that out there just so you can.
Thank you. Love it. No, that's really inspiring and important. And I know there were more questions in the chat, and I'm trying to think, do we go to our breakout rooms so that we can talk more in small groups? And I know there are people who are more comfortable speaking in Spanish and Creole. So I wanted to make sure that they have their opportunity to speak and listen. So Brady, did you set up the breakout rooms?
I'm currently setting them up.
Okay.
So I probably just need, I would say maybe 2 to 5 more minutes, just so that way they're all.
Great. And I should say, I want to thank the facilitators of breakout groups today. We have Nikema Marshall, who is Elijah's mom. She's going to be a facilitator in a breakout group. Thank you. And she's also known as Miss Nikki. And then we also have Christian White, and you've already heard from him. He's a father, and he is going to be facilitating a group. And then we also have Christina Reeves, who is a BPS parent as well, and she went to BPS. And actually, Miss Nikki, did you go to BPS?
I did.
Okay,
All the
and
way-
you did.
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
And Christian, did you go to BPS for at least a little while? Oh, good. So we've got facilitators, and Nilsa Montero. I see Nilsa. So she is also a BPS graduate, but a parent now of a BPS student. She's going to be facilitating the Cape Verdean group, and Roberto and Fariani are going to be facilitating the Spanish group or Spanish speaking group. And Roberto, did you go to Boston Public Schools, and is Roberto still here? Because he might be doing double time at the school committee also. Okay, Roberto might be off the call now. So it's just Fariana, who's definitely a Boston public school person. So it's, you know, we have an embarrassment of riches here. We've got so much knowledge in this group that is so capable of doing so much around these very complicated issues. So I'm really grateful to have these facilitators here to help us with those groups. And then the students will be sprinkled around as well. Nayeli, Centurion College, I put you as facilitating the group, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's completely fine.
And did I miss anybody else? Where's Miss Reeves? Is Christina still here? Maybe she's just got her sound. Yeah, okay, good. Hi, okay. Thank you. Maybe we could take one more question. I don't know if we want to take it from the chat or if someone's got something they really want to say. Imani, is your hand up from before, or did you want to say something else?
Oh, my hand's been up. My fault.
Oh, okay. Before we get into groups, let me find. Oh, someone said we're still living in the 70s. Yeah, I lived in the 70s and we are doing that. But actually that was a little bit easier. And Miss Barabino says we're the ones we've been waiting for. And that's absolutely true. I was saying this earlier to, I don't know who, but well, I know to my class, but it's just amazing that, you know, when we were studying Amilcar Cabral since the beginning of the summer program, and he was a, you know, revolutionary fighter, sort of the Martin Luther King of Cape Verde. He, in the 60s, around the same time that Boston was creating their freedom schools, he was creating schools for the children, the orphans, as well as the children of his soldiers, which the soldiers were men and women fighting for independence in the 1960s. And he created a pilot school. And in that pilot school, there was a war going on. So much more dangerous and in many ways than this pandemic. But he had still in that school, there was music, there was nutrition, there was mental health, all of that. So he's such an inspiration to me because he created that pilot school. He even got textbooks where the children's families were represented. I've seen these textbooks that were made in the 1960s that are in Creole, because that was their language, not Portuguese. And the textbooks show representations of, like, they show mothers with guns and holding their babies because that's, and wearing fatigues because that's what the kids saw. So seeing yourselves in the curriculum is important. Okay, Brady has our breakout rooms ready. So we're going to go to the breakout rooms, and the facilitators have some questions, but really just, you know, talk and let's see what we're thinking about right now and where everyone's at. Thank you.
And I left a small amount of people in this room, so that way one of the breakout rooms will be happening in here on the main.
All right. About how many people ended up being in each group?
7 or 8. And the names that you gave me for Creole, for Cape Verdean Creole and Spanish are also in their own breakout rooms.
Great, thank you.
And so this room here, just so you all know, this is the room that will continue to go live on Facebook. So don't act the fool. Don't do anything that you don't want nobody to see, you know, because it'll be live. And just so you know, act right. Y'all must think I'm crazy, but yes, I see.
No, I want to hear what people are thinking about this, especially the students and the parents. And we have a great grandparent here, even though she looks way too young to be a great grandparent. So,
yeah, I would love to hear about your reactions to not just some of the things that you've heard from the young people, but I'm just also really curious to get some feedback about this whole concept of learning pods. We came across it because we saw, folks from different parts of the city were organizing themselves and hiring private tutors and doing all of this. We were like, okay, wait a minute, how we get on this? And so we started organizing ourselves, and as parents, we're very resourceful. We identified a nonprofit organization that we can partner with. We got a little bit of seed funding so that we can pay for what we're calling classroom facilitators to help just facilitate the remote learning, and then really relying on our community partners for the enrichment programming that is going to be based on like a sense of self, a sense of love, and really grounded in social justice, because our hope is through this little learning pod, we'll be able to create the next generation of advocates that will, continue the work. So just curious about how that lands for y'all, and what do you all think about that as a concept? And I'm on my phone, so I'm gonna ask Susie to help me facilitate, because I can't see everybody in the one screen.
So John had his physical hand raised.
I'm curious to see some sort of template for that pod group, because I've been getting it, here and there in the background, and of course it's crossed my mind, but even for me, it seems like something that might be unobtainable. And I'm curious as to, if there was some sort of plan that I could just like, okay, this is how you do it. And that would help a lot.
Yeah.
The other thing is just on a personal level, my main concerns about what's going on are, first, are safety. I hear we have a grandmother here. I'm 62. Kids bringing this stuff home, it could be fatal to, us of a different generation. And the second concern is that in the remote learning, I heard that there were some brilliant students here, but I got to tell you, my kid tanked completely. She's bright enough to get into Latin Academy, and then basically, I don't know how she didn't fail every class. I think they were just being generous. And so the remote learning, that's something that, I'm really feel like we're in kind of a tough spot, and I honestly don't know what to do at this point. So
yeah. Yeah, no, John, I appreciate that. I think that's probably one of the reasons why we decided to create this learning pod, is because one is it's a contained environment, and it's a very small cohort. And so each pod has a minimum of like 4 to 5 students. So just the mere fact that it's a smaller contained space, there's less risk for exposure, and just the proximity, we're able to fulfill the 6 feet and do all of that in these smaller learning spaces. So that takes care of like a lot of the safety concerns that we have as parents. And I have, my mom is 71 years old, and she lives with me. And my mom has diabetes, high blood pressure. I also have asthma. I have I have concerns for my own health. And so in terms of my daughter, during the remote learning, there was this lack of engagement and movement, and this stillness that really impacted her physical health as well. And so the remote learning, and this is not just my case, I've heard this from other parents, that the remote learning wasn't just an academic fail, it was also a social, emotional, and physical fail for a lot of families. And so these learning pods, the way we're envisioning it, are designed to keep kids contained in a small space, but also provide enrichment opportunities for movement and physical activities so that we can ensure that those health disparities don't continue to persist during this pandemic. And then also this whole idea of failing epically. You know, my daughter is a diva. She'll be fine no matter what she does. But let me just tell you, you don't know how many times I had to take away her phone during her Zoom because she was doing Google Hangout, you know, group chats, and she was not really connected. She passed because she has a personality just like her mom. That's it. That's the only reason why she was able to pass this because of her personality. And I know that she's experienced a lot of learning loss as a result of it. So what we're going to be doing in this learning pod, John, is we're going to be doing, we're going to assess all of the students to identify where their gaps are so that we can create individualized learning plans to help supplement their learning, which is one of the things that I'm not hearing from BPS as well, is that it's just the remote learning and that's it. But I'm concerned about all of those students who are sitting at home, not really paying attention. And that's 6 months of learning that has gone by. And so we're going to be really intentional with this pod. And the way we, in terms to answer the question is the how, is like, look, it's about the village. You know, everybody in the community, everybody knows somebody. So in our little pod, you know, we have someone who I said is a nurse. You know, we have another dad who's going to run the boys pod, right? So everyone is bringing what I call their own little grain of salt to help support this process. And we're doing so in a community fashion. And then we've also partnered up with other nonprofit organizations to help support the supplemental learning. And that is, and then one of the nonprofits that we partnered with are opening up, they're opening up their space to us to host. So I think that the best way to do this, like one of the things that Susie and I talked about, is partnering up with St. Peter's, the church right on Hancock Street. And then work with Paulo's nonprofit group. What's the name of it? Paulo's nonprofit group.
Oh,
Susie,
CD Unido.
Yeah. So the Cape Verdean Unidos nonprofit, they could be one of the community partners alongside with the church. So the church can host it. This nonprofit community partner can work with the group and help facilitate that learning in that space. And then because BPS potentially may be going to a remote learning option, then families will have access to food through that process, right? So, and if not, because I'm the chair of small business, I'm thinking about how do we seize this moment to help support small businesses and create partnerships with local small businesses that are in the immediate area to provide the lunch. Because these times require a community-centered approach to dealing with this issue, so all hands are on deck. And then in terms of the safety precautions, we're following the CDC guidelines. And, you know, we're doing the temperature checks, even though BPS doesn't seem to think that that's something that they're going to do, but we're going to do it just because we just want to be extra with everything, right? We have a routine for when the kids come in. We have someone who's assigned to do all of the wipe downs in between classes. So we're taking those safety protocols to heart because these are our kids and our families. So we're not experimenting with just, yo, do this, and it's a great idea. No, we're doing this ourselves and we're learning from this. And then what we are learning, we're sharing with others to help them then organize a cohort of their friends. There's some people who aren't working right now. You know, I also said to some folks, you may not even need a nonprofit. You have a house, right? And if you have 5 people who live on your block, that you know that so-and-so is willing to open up their doors, right? And the person knows how to cook. Like, these times require us to be open and figure out the how. And so just being really innovative that way, maybe identifying maybe 4 or 5 people that you have a good relationship with, and you all partner up to support this journey, you know? So there's just some things to think about. I don't know if I answered all your questions, but that's just basically some of the things that we've been thinking about.
Quick, may I?
Sure.
So like, who would have access to these pods once you got them rolling?
Yeah, so we through the organization that I've been a part of, I was the founder of this organization that is leading it now. I'm no longer in that role, but through our network, we identified families that want to be a part of it. And listen, here's the deal. When we talk about all means all, we have 4 young people who are part of our pods that have IEPs, because this is what happens is that, you know, people want to like just take the kids that they don't have to worry about. Our pod has a young person that has dyslexia. We have kids who have different types of learning needs. One is the English language learner. Like, we were really intentional about the space that we wanted to create because we wanted to model what is possible. So we worked with our network and put out the information through the C-Plan network. But for other pods, right, Susie and I talked about, like, let's say, for instance, if Orchard Garden wanted to do a pod, it would be the Orchard Garden families that come together and say, I want to do a pod. And then those 10 parents will organize amongst themselves and create a small pod. And it's really about, here's the unique thing about this. Anyone could do this. No one has to give you permission. You know, you just have to have the drive to want to think outside the box, because there's a lot of people who homeschool. Like, I learned so much about homeschooling during this situation. There are people who do this as a profession, they've homeschooled all their kids, and some of their kids are even at Harvard right now. Like, homeschooling, people think is, I never thought it was like, I never considered it as an option, but there are a lot of people right now who have done homeschooling successfully that could also be a pod leader, right? There's some teachers who don't want to go back into the classroom. And if BPS was really thinking outside the box, we can get some of those teachers who have retired and teachers who want to even do remote learning. They don't have to go into the space. They could do remote learning for these kids. You know, it's like, this is why, and maybe I always believe that I have a solution for every problem, but I believe that these times are giving us an opportunity to think outside the box. So I would reach out to friends that you have, people who have a passion for young people, people who work in the nonprofit space. I would look at educators who aren't interested in going back into the classroom, that are willing to do even remote learning with the students so that you can help supplement some of the learning loss. And then look at UMass Boston. There are a lot. Oh my God, today's Thursday. No, Thursday is the pilot meeting. I was like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be at another meeting right now. When I just talked about the universities, I was like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be somewhere else. But no, is that there's a lot of universities. We could take them to task right now. They haven't been paying their little taxes, payment in lieu of taxes. We can utilize those universities to see if they're willing to partner and adopt a pod, you know? Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that pilot money is so important. I saw Marcy Murnaghan is on this call. She's in another group, but she actually has been working within the Boston Public Schools since like 1970. Like, she was working during that time, and she's more of an historian and knows all about how that came to be and all of this, you know, all this other stuff. So I think it's really important that we know that, because there is money in Boston. What's one thing that scares me and might scare other people about the pods is like, but what if, who gets left behind? Like, what if there's a child who doesn't have an adult advocating for them? So that's why I would like to figure out a way that this could go system-wide or be one of the selections a parent could make. So that's like you were saying. So I just want to make it clear that if we could get PPS to think outside the box, and I think, you know, it seems like having cameras in all the classrooms in this hybrid model, whatever, hopscotch, that's like thinking in like some really crazy box. So I think to say, have, you know, groups of 10 or 20 parents from each school who are in the same neighborhood say, okay, you know, if St. Peter's Youth Center is available, they could go to that one, and have the parents understand that it might be like what Jerry Robinson and I were talking about earlier today, like one room schoolhouse. So, you know, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade in the same classroom, project-based learning. And, you know, like I said, I walk with Nilsa every morning through Franklin Park, and I'm like, this is the best classroom ever. Because I'm thinking, if I taught a class, I'd want to be the class that my kids have to have snow pants, umbrella, rain jacket, everything, because we'd be outside, whatever the weather, and we just have a, school at Franklin Park as much as we could.
Yeah, so I would just to follow that thread. One of the other things too is that right now we're talking to some folks in Codman Square, and their main focus is around physical health, the Codman Square Health Center. So I reached out to them to figure out if we can create a pod that focuses on physical fitness, and they would bring in the community health center as a partner. Right? Then we have the library down the street. The kids can go to the library, one day of learning in the library, and they can absorb all the history and all the literacy, right? So it's how do we utilize the space that exists within our neighborhoods for it to become our education, like how do we utilize those spaces and for learning? And I think the libraries, the health centers are there's just so many opportunities for us to really think about, and we have time right now while they're still debating whether or not whatever it is that they're going to do. We have to organize, y'all. We have to come up with our own little plan and create it and build it, because I am not feeling comfortable and confident with what I've been hearing, even in this meeting, because I've been going back and forth, and they're still keep saying it's all a draft, that they're still thinking that they have until the whatever date that is. But every single day that we wait, that's one less day that we're giving our educators an opportunity to plan for whatever it is to come. And I think that it's giving us more time to also then start thinking for ourselves about what it is that we can do. I'm a community organizer and an activist at heart. I don't even know why I'm a city councilor, but I'm always trying to fight something. Like I feel like we gotta just move forward and period. But
I want to say hi to Tim Fitzgerald. He came in just now. He's he was in our class, our graduate class we had with Dr. Celia Ruiz. Thank you, Tim. And he works with youth. And he was at another event tonight, or he would have been a facilitator in this group as well. So
Can you give me a breakout room?
What's that?
Can you give me a breakout room?
Oh, is that Anthony Azarea's brother?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're about to come back here. You can just stay right here, Anthony. Your voice has changed. Did anybody else want to say anything? I'm curious. And I feel like this is the beginning of a conversation.
It is the beginning of a conversation. One of the things I wanted to talk about is for about almost 12 years, when I lived in Florida, I was in public libraries there, and we ran learning programs every single day except for Sunday, and we ran them all year round except for 2 weeks in December and June when we just needed a break. And I had a team of folks who we did regular library work along with the program. Our kids did so great in school because it was book-based learning, and it worked out very well. So libraries, if we can get them to agree to host small groups in their community rooms, it will be a great access for kids, especially those children who are having reading problems because they're not accessing enough reading material. And I feel very strongly about that. I know what works. I taught reading for a good 25, 30 years now. I know what works. I know how to get people reading. And if they read well, the other subjects are easier for them.
Yeah, and can I just say, I'm really excited that Deborah and Julia are in the same room because you're both go-getters. I met Deborah, I don't know, like 15 more years ago, but she's the most amazing librarian I've ever met. And yeah, I mean, these are the type of meetings that need to happen because she's been there, done that, and been doing it. I've seen Miss Barabino get any child to read any book, and like children that you don't think are going to be with books, all of a sudden they all had books in their hands. So, and that was with a library that really didn't even exist until she came there and made it at the Gavin Middle School. So
Yeah.
we need to continue these connections because there are people, we all come with different talents.
And you know, the fact of the matter is too, is that over the years, our schools have been stripped away of everything from libraries to art, and they expect our teachers to do more with less. And every day, you know, I've learned a lot about the education space. I started off my career, well, I didn't start off my career, I was doing youth development, but then I ended up in education, and it was like, ugh, never again. And so, but I learned so much about the education space and all the inequities that exist. And every single time that I have an opportunity to really push, you know, we need, some schools don't even have libraries, right?
I know it didn't before Miss Barabino came. She created our library.
And you know, when we talk about the school to prison pipeline, you know, literacy is such an important factor in that, right? And so this conversation, again, I know we're talking about reopening, but we have to center this reopening in a way that's like thinking about long-term sustainability, because we can't go back to the way things used to be, because the way things used to be were not working for anybody. Right? So what we do now and how we set the stage for how we move forward should be the norm for every school, no matter where we are, no matter where we live, right? I think that that is the goal. And I think every school needs to have a functioning library. I mean, I had home ec when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I even had swimming.
I'm from New Orleans. We had music. We had, and I tell people this all the time. We had 2 band directors, piano teacher, violin teacher, and voice teachers, our full-time art teacher, and we had a drama teacher, all in, and it was thousands of us there, but it was available, and it was a part of the community, and the community expected that, and they put their tax monies, little that they had, into that. And I think, you know, the kids don't have, I mean, to me, the online thing could work if they had enough components to it, that for every reading or lecture or science course you get to have an arts course. You get to have a poetry place. I mean, you get to have something that feeds your soul. What made me love reading was a good book. What made me love playing music was everybody in New Orleans was given a little black tornado. Whether we could play it, we all learn the same doggone thing. Some people took it to the next level. And my thing, we never have children who don't get to do that. And I'm, you know, and that sort of kills my soul about that film.
So I think everyone from the breakout rooms is coming back. I'm going to ask everyone who's not speaking to go back to muting themselves. I know Deborah wants to finish up her thought. Thank you all so much.
Please continue, Miss Barabino, because actually, you finish your thought. Miss Barabino, she used to be the librarian at the school I worked at, and she's the most amazing librarian I've ever met, and a wealth of knowledge. But please finish your thought.
What I'm saying is that the core subjects we have to take are very important. But the other areas of learning, the arts are a tremendous part. And I don't know about you guys, but every single minute at BCLE that kids have a chance to get together is based around art or athletics. Athletics gets a spot, but there's no arts there. They haven't been arts at BCLA for a long time now, and I've been there for a while, and it's sad because they loved it. When we had a music teacher, they loved it. When we had a drama teacher, they was just glad to do something other than what they regularly had to do. And it made some kids come to school. You just have to have something. You have to have something to lure you there. And that's my point. I think we have to make sure that we have something to lure the students into learning.
Thank you so much, Miss Barabino. And
Susie, sorry, because I'm gonna have to probably go back to the.
Yep. We're going to close out in just a minute, so that is fine. I wanted to see, I don't know if Nayeli wanted to close up things or ask groups to share.
Are there any groups that would like to share their conversations? If anything like stood out to you guys or something that you really want us to know or anything like that?
Oh, go ahead.
I think our group was just really talking about the uncomfortabilities that we had moving forward, you know, with kids going to school. And just like I said, you know, I was uncomfortable with even being in the building myself, that I would not be sending my daughter back this year, that we have decided to do remote learning. And it's not the best thing, but it's the safest thing at the moment until we can figure it out, until we can figure out what we are going to be doing and how secure it's going to be. There is no option. I don't think there is a best way or a best model, but we have to find some ground, some means, some communal means in order for us and our children to be safe. You know, not only am I talking about my daughter, but myself. You know, I'm in a school. I'm in a school that cannot. I'm in a classroom that cannot social distance, and which is an ABA classroom. So therefore, I am going to also be putting my family in jeopardy when I go back. So we have to find ways of just being okay with the whole and not letting everyone else. I forgot the gentleman's name that was just in my group, but he said it perfectly. Mark said that, you know, it's almost like we're test tubes. You know, is that what you said, Mark? Don't have me lying. But
collateral damage. Students and teachers are collateral damage.
And I was like, yes, and you should, you know, if you could have saw my face while I was driving. I was like, you're absolutely right. Not only are we collateral damage, so is our children. And it needs to be, we have to have a say-so in this. And my say-so is that my child is not gone.
Araceli, Jaylene's mom, who goes to Orchard Gardens. So I kind of shared with everyone her thoughts because she's camera shy and didn't want to say anything. But she's not camera shy, but okay. Yeah, she's camera shy with the adults, but not with her friends. That's for sure. So yeah, when it comes to, you know, this coming year, I mean, Jaylene even told me herself that she did not feel comfortable going back to school because of the COVID and just being, you know, exposed with everyone. Not to say that she doesn't miss her friends or her teachers or her school, because she is involved. She loves to be there. She enjoys even her after school because she goes to the Boys and Girls Club next door at Orchard Gardens. So she enjoys spending time with everyone and being involved. However, she is also aware of the health issues and what is it going to look like, social distancing, because her school, everyone is so connected with each other that social distancing really doesn't exist in there. So, you know, it's going to be a cesspool in a way of, you know, possible contamination and everyone wanting to be together. They're going to hug each other. They're going to say hi. You know, some students will follow the rules and keep their mask on, and then some won't. And, you know, that's going to happen. And, you know, she thought, which she said her own words, Mom, if we can keep the school closed for 1 year and come back by the next fall season, maybe things will look like okay by then, which, you know, I think is a very good observation that she made, you know, as a young girl going into 7th grade, and she's thinking herself, you know, why not keep it closed? And I think this is something that we should all advocate. I can absolutely respect all of the students and what they feel, but I think safety and health and other people's health with any underlying conditions, whether it's, you know, grandparents, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, you know, just to be mindful that it is extremely important that we all keep each other safe. Because safety at this point is the #1 priority as well, you know.
Yes, thank you so much, ladies, for sharing that.
And just
like
to chime in one more time, is I did not, just to chime in one more time, with that social distancing, we have children that are going to be on public transportation. Tell me, how do we social distance public transportation, and then they're going into the school systems? That defeats the purpose. We're talking about social distancing, and then they're going on public transportation.
Yeah.
That's another, it makes no sense.
Yeah, it all leads up to a point where they're everyone, whether they're young or small to the high school, they're all going to get put together in a space where the social distancing won't really exist at that point. And so it's like, it needs to be. So then how do we keep each other safe, right? And I think it's very difficult that way. So I know that myself and Jaylene, we've opted to do the online learning for the fall as well. But it's still up in the air because we don't know what BPS is going to do. So even though they have this model, this whole thing, it's still not concrete. So I don't know, but I think as a parent, to keep everyone safe and of course, keep education on the table, I think we should just, stay online at least mid-year, maybe even until January. But, we shall see, I guess. And that's why these conversations are so important.
And hi, I'm Soroya. So my feeling is that as long as we're wearing masks, that I will not be sending my grandchildren to school. And as long as there's a social distance where children cannot be, close and at least have some kind of socialization with each other, they will not be going to school as well. So they'll have to learn the remote way, and hopefully it'll be a way that everybody involved will be able to deal with it in an appropriate way. And I think also those breakout rooms, they should be utilized also with the remote learning, because those breakout rooms could help a whole lot with extra teachers all working together. I feel for the teachers as well, and the nurses and all the other staff. And I just feel as though now is not the time to go back to school, even if it's only for an hour.
Yeah. We definitely hear you, ladies, and we have a lot of agreement in this, where it's like, it's not safe, it's not anything to take lightly. And I would like to open up the floor one more time for anyone else who would like to say what was going on in their group. If not, I'll give the closing remarks.
I just had a question. Right, so I was talking about this kind of thing with I work with the Center for Community Health Education Research and Service, and we have these kind of conversations all the time because it is a public health issue, right? But I just want to know where we can get more. I like the idea of those pods we were talking about. I think that's like a really cool thing, and it could work for a lot of people. So how can we get more information on that? How it's like going down with the city and working with BPS and whatever nonprofits, and then how can we get more involved with that, like as individuals?
Yeah, definitely. One way to get involved is to reach out to some of the members of these different organizations. For example, I'm a student organizer for BTU. And right now I've been working with the team for reopening, and the head of that team is Ari Brands. So if you really want to get involved in stuff, we have these Zoom meetings and stuff like that to create forums at our schools, at your schools, to talk to the staff and the students at your school based off of like safety and what we want to do, instead of what like the city has thrown out. Because the city has thrown out this hopscotch plan that just is not gonna work for anyone, and it's not healthy or safe. They just didn't think it through enough. So we've been trying this whole summer to like get everyone to not do that, to say no to the hopscotch plan, and like do a COVID-19 plan that we have composed, where it's like we don't go back until it's completely safe, until we're fully funded and stuff like that. So if you really want to get involved, I can connect you to Ari Brands through her email and stuff. So yeah. Any other stuff before we close out?
I'm just writing in the comments, but I'm going to be sending out a feedback sheet, not right now, but later on. And we can also stay connected this way, because I think like we have a rich group right here of some of the smartest people. Like, I mean, I wish I could introduce everybody that's here that I know, and there's people I don't even know, but like Sharon Hinton here is from Black Teachers Matter. We've got so many resources with us. I want us to keep connected. And so in that feedback form, I'll figure out a way for us to keep connected, keep this going, because I see people like Nancy Smith on here. She's, there's just a lot of people who are resources in the community that do amazing things. So I'll give you a feedback form, and if this is a conversation people want to continue as a group, we work better when we work together.
Yes, definitely. So thank you for joining us. There will be, like as Susan said, there will be a feedback form for you to add your ideas to. We want to thank all of the students and the parents who joined us. We hope to continue these discussions with more members of the community, including the parent/grandparent panel that will be coming up soon. We also want to thank City Councilor Julia Mejia, and also just a huge thank you to everyone. Like, really, this means a lot for you guys to sit here and just listen to students on what they really want and what they really need, and also give your opinions as teachers and parents and other types of like educators in this system. That is all. Thank you so much.
So much,
Thank you so much, everybody. Everyone did
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just testified on behalf of saying no to that plan, just so you know.
Thank you.
Thank you,
to the
Susie.
facilitators also. Thank you, Miss Reeves and Miss Marshall and Christian and Miss Nilsa and
thank you,
Roberto, and then all of you parents and family members. Thank you for coming. See you soon.
Susie, you rock.
Thank you.
Thank you
for everyone.
Thank you, Miss P. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, you will.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great night.
It's good to see you. Oh,
Bye.
bye. Thank you, Miss Reeves. I'll see you on Friday.
Yes. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Araceli. See you soon.
Bye.
Eliana, I'll see you tomorrow.